Hello guys, welcome to PE Sociocultural Screencast Exam 3. Sorry it's a little bit late, they take for ages, and also kind of putting the memory grids together after it is very time consuming, so please bear with me. It gives you a full day tomorrow and tonight to go look over it. So basically, Sociocultural Study, Screencast 3, key focus, we'll get through to it straight away. We've gone through all the kind of exam success cycle. You know what you're doing. Pause it if you can, think of the memory method. Obviously the first time through you might need to use the screencast, the middle screen PowerPoint slide to give you the memory method. Then obviously as we get towards the exam you should be constantly using these kind of screencasts and pausing it straight after your question. Now, I do look at these and think, I know you can download, so you go YouTube downloader, you can download these kind of things and put them onto your phone. And if you are in a situation where, you're running, you're doing whatever, where you're traveling, you can practice these when you're doing it. You're getting very, very close now. We're looking at 10, 12 days to your exam. Please start having the seriousness that's going to allow you to get a good grade. Right, first question. Explain the advantages and disadvantages of the London 2012 Olympics on society. So remember, we had a kind of a way to remember this, and I said that any of the kind of changes, really, that societal changes, were very short-lived, and I kind of gave you an acronym for that. So something that's short-lived and it's not permanent, the opposite of permanent would be, and we kind of used a little acronym for that. The acronym was this, okay, so TTENPS, so I said it's to temporary, okay, so to temps, and then we changed the M to an N, so that see if you can remember it from that, so TTENPS, and then from there, the answer comes as follows. So basically, you have an improved transport, okay, so improved transport links, for example, the Javelin train line. However, the downside to that was increased pollution. The next T was its increased tourism. However, with increased tourism brings the increased chance of a terrorist threat. You have increased employment, for example, you have there's increased construction jobs. However, this employment will be short-lived. It'll be short-term employment only for the Olympic period. You have the opportunity for nation building, so you get to promote the kind of country. The country gets to have a sense of pride about their country due to hosting the Olympics. However, this can lead to extreme nationalism. And finally, you have increased participation in a balanced, active, healthy lifestyle. So people see role models, okay, such as Jessica Ennis, and it makes them want to take part. However, on the other flip side to that is having so much Olympics and having it on television can actually lead to the complete contrast to that, which would be couch potato effect. Okay, moving on. Next one. Describe the nature of sport in Australia. It's massively important that you don't get this mixed up. And I was looking and saying, can I think of something as a way to remember it? And then I thought, come on. Come on, I've given you ways to remember pretty much everything. I think this is something you should be able to do. What is different about Australia that makes sport the national obsession? Okay, what is it? What do they have that's different to what we have? Okay, so do you remember those things? So what's different? Where can they go that's very close to them? All the kind of cities are based around these kind of areas. You've got people to look up to, okay? You've got things similar to America, so you've got two shapes that are similar to America. So you've got the triangle. You've also got the thing when I had the degree sign, okay? So yes, we're not talking about university here, but sport is certainly high status somewhere, okay? So have a look through here, see what you can pick out, see if you can get 5. You're looking at the following. So, key, 5, favourable climate. Okay, so the sunny weather will ensure people more chance of taking part. That they have accessible natural environments such as the sea and the beach, e.g., surfing, windsurfing, beach volleyball. Sport is fashionable. Okay, so it's front page news. It's cool to do it. It can raise your social status. Bush culture has links with this kind of survival of the fittest, pioneering, endurance-based spirit of Australia. Then you have tradition. We have the tradition of beating England, known as pommy bashing. They've had successful teams. Let's leave that. So positive role modelling. Okay, so you have good role models such as Shane Warne. Government support and funding. They see it as a political tool, so they use it as a vote catcher. So they fund sport because they know that people like it. And finally, high status of school in sport. And you can also talk about sport is now inherently linked in Australia with the Golden Triangle, so sponsorship in the media. Okay, moving on then. Identify surviving ethnic sport. Explain the reasons for the continued popularity of surviving ethnic sports. So if you're looking at that saying, right, this is very unlikely to come up, but I just felt like if it did come up, I would be really annoyed with myself I hadn't just put it on a screencast. So Identify surviving items. It's very easy. Remember the acronym. The acronym is to do with kind of a place that sells flowers. Okay, see if that can bring it out. But what people are poor at, very poor at, is getting the right descriptions in the right place. So you're saying things like, people keen to recreate the past, brings money into the local area. It's unique to a local area, brings the community together. Okay, so have a look on here. That's your key thing. That's your acronym. Can you think about which kind of key terms? Can you get 5 key terms from that? Okay, an example of a surviving ethnic sport you could have is cheese rolling. You could have Ashbourne football. See if you've got the right stuff in the right place. Okay, I'll pause it. Let's see, you've got local, unique to the community, surrounding area, occasional, often annual, which maintains interest, religious, based around religious events. Okay, isolated, it maintains the ethnic identity. Social, brings community together. Traditional, people are keen to recreate the past and keep a tradition going. Tourism, it brings money into the local area. Next question then. So identify 3 ways elite athletes are funded in the UK. Now, this is very much a category-based answer, but it's not the categories we usually talk about sociocultural, which are, based around health, because that's talking about physical activity. Talk about funding. There are 3 category of funding streams elite athletes use. I would like you to explain one of those with a bit more depth. Okay, so the 3 mechanisms. One is things like that, comes from National Lottery. One comes from sponsorship. One comes from charities and donations. Let's see if you can work it out from that. So you have types of funding then. Public, which is the National Lottery. Private, which is sponsorships and private companies, e.g. Nike. Then you've got things like voluntary, things such as donations and charity. Now, one of those things you could talk about, the National Lottery funding, if you wanted to talk about that a little bit more, public funding, you could talk about UK Sport. Now, UK Sport distributes funding or National Lottery funding via the World Class Performance Plan. Now, you don't have to know loads about it, but it would help if you knew that kind of where does public funding come from? Well, you've got the UK Sport distributes a world-class performance plan. There's 3 levels: podium 2 years away, development for talent 6 to 8 years away, and that funding, your funding amount of funding will be dependent upon how close you are. Another example of a funding mechanism from UK Sport is Talented Athlete Scholarship Scheme, and this is funding for equipment and coaching and transport for elite athletes, but who are, basically they've got potential to go to the Olympics, but they're also still in full-time education. Okay, so it will just stop them from having a part-time job. Going on then. Factors to effective participation, so it could be termed barriers. So you will have to explain factors to effective participation. Now, this could be linked to any priority group. So if I said to you now this to categorise, you are categorising the factors that stop people from taking part in physical activity. So there's your triggers, so opportunity, provision and esteem. Can you get 12? Okay, can you think of 12, maybe more, things that prevent people from participating in physical activity? Okay, so you've got it on here then. So you've got money. Okay, so your socioeconomic status could stop you from having a gym membership. Time, if you have a full-time job or a part-time job, full-time education, that could stop you from playing sport. Ability, if you have low ability levels in complex sports such as things like golf, it might stop you from taking part. Choice, you might choose not to take part due to peer pressure. Your friends might be interested in smoking, drinking, other things. Health, you might have health conditions such as asthma. Injury, you might have injury if you're older, so it might stop you. If you're an elderly person, you might have things such as osteoarthritis, which will stop you from taking part. Social class can kind of limit the sports you can play. You're not going to be going to polo club if you are from a low socioeconomic background or from the lower echelons of the social stratification system. Okay, going from there then. Provision. Transport, if you don't have transport, lack of transport could lead to you not being able to if you're from a rural area, get to a gym. Equipment, if you lack of equipment, e.g. golf clubs for golf would stop you from taking part. Lack of facilities in the local area, so there might be a lack of climbing walls in the local area. A lack of access, so for disabled people there might be a lack of access ramps. Lack of coaching, there might be a lack of specific coaching, e.g. for example, there might be no Olympic weightlifting coaches within the local area, which could cause a problem. Esteem, so lack of self-confidence. This could be linked to body image, so if you might not want to take part in things such as swimming if you have a negative body image. Stereotypes, things such as, stereotypes can be linked to any priority group. Women can't play football, elderly are too old to play sport, ethnic minorities, so black people can't swim, young people are only interested in computer games, and disabled people can't do sport. Okay, these are stereotypes. Okay, the stereotypes allow something called a self-fulfilling prophecy to develop, and this can be very dangerous in terms of long-term participation. If you want to remember priority groups and you come to the end, you want to talk about one each at the end, you can use this little way of remembering it, WEDI. Okay, so women, elderly, ethnic minorities, disabled and young, and then you can link it to that. Look at the type. The question could ask you about any priority, or it could just be general. If it's general, you put WEDI on the end. Going on there, provide initiatives from the government and national governing bodies to improve participation. This has never come up. Okay, so it's important you know, what do the government do or make you do as a young person to allow you to, so you have to take part in sport. Okay, what do the government do? One thing this was mandatory, and there's another thing that kind of they also do. So we've talked about, and then there is a national governing bodies. They do something. This is the graveyard question. No one's going to expect it. No one's going to be able to answer it. Let's make sure we can. So, government initiatives then. You have the national curriculum, which proposes that each student has to do a mandatory 2 hours per week. And then another scheme, which is now, when this spec came out, was called the PESCL strategy, PE School Sport Club Link strategy, which had strands such as gifted and talented, which focused on kind of lifestyle camps for elite athletes, sports colleges, which allowed increased facility specialist staff, and then finally step into sport, which are voluntary leadership roles that people could choose. It's now been replaced by PSIP, okay, but you don't need to worry about that. National governing bodies have initiatives to improve participation too. The main one is a whole sport plan. So FA, RFU, whichever your governing body, have a whole sport plan. The funding they receive from Sport England is dependent upon meeting priority group participation targets. If they get them, the key focus of them is to get them to stay and succeed in sport. If they do get them to stay and they meet the participation targets, they will receive funding from Sport England for community sport, because remember we talked about that lottery funding from Sport England. Moving on then. Explain the impact of media on sport and a balanced, active, healthy lifestyle. Now, there's a good chance you'll get a question on this that could just be positive effects of the media on sport, negative effects of the media on sport, and it might ask you to link it to BAHL. Okay, so what I've just done here quickly is said, right, remember, the effect of media. The way you're remembering this is thinking about a form of media. Which form of media do you have to remember in order to get the memory method? That will give you your kind of positives, and then by that, you should be able to chunk and then contrast and give the negatives. So the acronym you should have is PAPERS. Okay, that's something to do with BAHL, it's just sport. And then we can talk about BAHL separate after. So from PAPERS, do you remember what PAPERS, what they stand for? Okay, so I've put it onto here. So you've got here, I'm not going to have time to talk through them. So can you have a look? The thing I am going to talk about is balanced, active, healthy lifestyle. How does the media positively impact upon the promotion of a balanced, active, healthy lifestyle? Well, firstly, you have this concept of, fitness DVDs. Davina McCall, Charlotte Crosby. I have used Ellie Reid's homework here. So Charlotte Crosby is one she put, was a fantastic example. I'm pretty sure I say it's fantastic. I think she's off Geordie Shore. Then you go Davina McCall, fitness DVD, Biggest Loser TV channel. So these are all kind of visual kind of representations or media-based representations of ways that you can promote a balanced, active, healthy lifestyle on the media. Media coverage can also have a negative impact on BAHL. So, for example, a young person watching Lance Armstrong documentary on him admitting that he'd lied and taken drugs might actually put someone off taking part in a balanced, active, healthy lifestyle and think, Jesus, my hero, my role model has actually been taking drugs all along, and it might turn people off taking part. Final one then, causes. Explain the causes and solutions to player violence. This will be a 6-mark question, 3 and 3. Remember, there are certain things you have to do if you are, what is the cause of a player being violent? Remember, the key memory acronyms for this are the reason why players may become violent. The cause might be is because they don't want to be friends with someone else. So FWEND, and then what are the solutions? Solutions to player violence for people like Joey Barton, who was a horrible human being, very aggressive and violent on the pitch and off the pitch. He started to become a bit of a philosopher. So solutions, become a poet. POET. Can you remember what they stand for? Pause and maybe have a go through, see what you can come up with. Answers to this then, okay, as follows. So you've got your key bits there. So frustration, weapons, emotional intensity, nature of game, dehumanised protective equipment or pads in American football. Solutions: become a poet. Punishments: okay, so 10-match ban for Luis Suarez for biting someone. Officials: 5 officials in football. Education: anger management courses. And then technology: multiple cameras around the ground, which can lead to retrospective punishment. Okay, thank you very much.